blessing of the Sabbath. No. Amadwa, Panya, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Man, I shall read everything. The blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushai. Asherah. Nathanawa. HaShabbat. Ba'Shalawam. The water. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that give to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Psalms 121. Ta'alim, Maha, Asharim, Akkad. Anya, Harayam, Ayinimya, Al, Ahariam, Mahayan, Yabwa'ah, Isaiah, Yabwa'ah, Mayahawa, Shah, Shamayam, Waratiza, La'ah, Yonathan, Lamawat, Regalia, Yala'ah, Yanawam, Shashamarka, Hana, La'ah, Yanawam, Wala'ah, Yayashan, Shashramar, Yasharala, Yahawa, Shamaria, Yahawa, Tozalia, Il, Yad, Yamyanya, Yawamum, Hashamash, La'ah, Hakaya, Wayarak, La'ah, Malayala, Yahawa, Yashamaria, Makal, Rai, Yashamor, Napashia, Yahawa, Yashamor, Hawalakia, Wabaya, Maitha, Wa'aid, Iwalam, Basham, Yahawashah, Tawada, Aman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. From hence comes my help. My help comes from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil, shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and ever forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Hear Israel, Shema Yasharala. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allahainawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allahainawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allahainawa, Yahweh, Akkad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. The Lord's Prayer, Yahweh Tapala. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Daba'ah, Ratizawanka, Haya, Aisha, Baratiza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakum, Yawum, Za, Wasalanawa, Kawawatinawa, Kasalatnawa, Kawawatinawa, Wala'ah, Abiyanawa, Al, Nasaya 1, Abal, Hawashainawa, Marai, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwat, Wa'ala, Wataparak, Luaywalam. Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debt, as we forgive our debtor. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Hi, Shara Matazawat. The Ten Commandments. La'ah,
La'ah,
Yahaya,
Yahaya,
Laka,
Laka,
Alahayim,
Alahayim,
Akariam,
Akariam,
Apanya,
Alpanya,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Daisha,
Daisha,
Laka,
Laka,
Pasal,
Pasol,
Wala'ah,
Wala'ah,
Duabidam,
Maibidam,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Talakwaka,
Talakwaka,
Shamwa,
Shamwa,
Yahawah,
Yahawah,
Alahayaka,
Alahayaka,
Lashawa,
Lashua,
Zakar,
Zakar,
At,
A'a,
Hayawam,
Hayawam,
Hashabat,
Hashabat,
Lakwadashwa,
Lakadashwa,
Kabad,
Kabad,
Abika,
Abiyaka,
Wa'amaka,
Ba'amaka,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taratizak,
Ratazak,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Tana'ah,
Tana'ah,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taganab,
Daganah,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Daina,
Dainah,
Shakor,
Shakur,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Takamad,
Takamad,
Kal,
Kal,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Laraika,
Laraika,
Aman.
Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and show mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the Lord, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that take his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy maidservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may be prolonged upon the land which the Lord thy God has given thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor shalt thou covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor. Amen.
Aman. Yeshua be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Asherah, Nathananawa, Parya, Hakapan, Duwada, Aman, La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, At Yasharala. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that give to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you. So be it to Yahweh in the name of Yahushai with Israel. Amadwa, Panya, Jerusalem. Stand and face Jerusalem. Barakata Yahweh, Hagadah, Rakawam, Habiyah, Unara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shamayim, Waratizah, Wakal, Dabarium, Kayayam, Wakam, Amashiach, Mayahawa, Hadawanawa, Ahabna, Hapala, Yeraitiza, Yahawashai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Imka, Yasha'ala, Arzanawa, Bana, Wasap, Yasha'ala, Al, Nanawa, Yamyan, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makodam, Babakasha, Shalak, Maaka'ala, Watazwadak, Alahayam, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamor, Alnawa, Baikor, Shalak, Haraka, Shal, Yahawashai, Lanawa, Lalamadnawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada'ai, Shal, Daborka, Basham, Yahawashai, Duwada, Dumyad, Waivalam, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high. We beg you, right now, like the days of old, please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of that word in the name of Yahweh. Thank you, always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that give to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Nathanawa, Hatawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that give to us the light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Nathanawa, Aurora, Laura Wat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that give to us the rhyme zone to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Nathanawa, Koran, Hayel, Lakara, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that give to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Nathanawa, Hashaman, Zayat, Lamashach, Yasha'ala. Yashabo, be seated. Shalom, Israel.
Shalom.
Welcome to Yashua Kanas, Congregation of Israel. located 3826B Germantown Avenue in Philadelphia. My name is Kahan Yawakanan, and I'll be presiding over the Sabbath service. So the Most High is calling the Black, Hispanics, and Native American, who make up the 12 tribe of Israel, to come back to this law, statutes, and commandments. And just how Yahushua, Jesus Christ, says in Mark 12:29, and Jesus answered him, the first of all the commandments is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So he's calling, Israel, which is the 12th tribe of Israel. And we're mainly here in the Western Hemisphere, North, Central, and South America, and the West Indies. Some of us are in England and other part of the world. And today we're reading 1 Samuel 22, King James Version. So 1 Samuel 22, verse 1. So David is fleeing from Saul and what he's going through in these times, because he's anointed, and since King Saul has a spirit on him, an evil spirit, that he's trying to kill David, which is not, he's not king as yet, but he's going to be king later on. So 1 Samuel 22, verse 1. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. So when he escaped to a cave, you could, hide yourself from the elements, for a while. So they heard it and they came to him. Verse 2. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. So, King Saul is there, and King David, they start to cling on to David, because he's the Lord's anointed. Verse 3. And David went thence to Mikpeh of Moab, and he said unto the king of Moab, which the Moab are the Chinese today, let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth and be with you till I know what God will do for me. So, being with Moab for a while until he hears what the Most High is gonna tell him what to do. Verse 4, and he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him, and all the while that David was in the hold. Verse 5, and the prophet Gad said unto David, abide not in the hold, depart and get thee into the land of Judah. Then David departed and came into the forest of Heret. So that's what the prophet Gad told him. So the king, David is, from the tribe of Judah. So being in the land where Judah is. Kahanabia?
Yeah, it's going to quote Jeremiah 15:11, which tells you that it shall be well with the Most High's remnant. The Most High calls the enemy and treat us well in a time of evil and a time of affliction. Think about how crazy it is where David's being pushed to what? Go to heathen kings he might have had some kind of alliance with, something that he hasn't war with, just for protection from Saul, his own blood, but who seeks to kill him. That's kind of interesting. Because the Most High can have the heathen look out for us when we seek him. Even if we might be in a situation where we're being attacked or harmed by our own kin, our own nation. So he's having his parents stay with the king of Moab.
Yeah. And he would trust him. It's the Jeremiah 15.
Yeah, Jeremiah 15:11. I'll read it real quick. So Jeremiah 15:11, it reads, the Lord said, verily it shall be well with thy remnant. Verily I will cause the enemy to entreat thee well in the time of evil and in the time of affliction.
Okay. Verse 5. And the prophet Gad said unto David, abide not in hold, depart and get into the land of Judah. Then David departed and came into the forest of Heret. Verse 6. When Saul heard that David was discovered, so King Saul has men, and he'll hear news. See what's going on with David. And the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. So they're protecting him. Verse 7. Then Saul said unto his servants that stood about him, hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? So Saul and his men, so it seemed that if David would do that for them, for his men. Verse 8, that all of you have conspired against me, and there is none that showeth me that my son had made a league with the son of Jesse, just Jonathan. So even with Jonathan and David, make an agreement to see if King Saul, Jonathan, father, would do David evil or good. And there is none of you that is sorry for me, or show it unto me that my son had stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as at this day. So he's looking at his men now, because at times, King Saul is say, bring David to me, even bring him in the bed, bring him to me. So David was able to flee, and he knew that through Jonathan that evil was against David. Verse 9, then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. So Doeg the Edomite, he's always looking away, and because he's not our people, he's always trying to bring us down. And he was one of King Saul's men. So whatever he sees, and he reports to King Saul. Verse 10, and he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath, the Philistine. So I know David had that sword, and apparently he left it, and they were able to retrieve it. Verse 11, then the king sent to call Ahimelech, the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king. So Saul, Saul is talking to his, people around him, his men. Verse 12, and Saul said, hear now, thou son of Ahitub. And he answered, here I am, my lord. Verse 13, and Saul said unto him, why have ye conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, in that thou hast given him bread and a sword, and has inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait as at this day? So he was able to, escape. And his men didn't want to just, go and kill David. So Saul is, getting upset, as if, they're against him, Verse 14, then Ahimelech answered the king and said, and who is so faithful among all thy servants as David? It's showing that, David is faithful. He was in his army. He was able to kill Goliath and subject himself unto King Saul. And by killing Goliath, it was a big thing. And, David present himself to King Saul. And even King Saul asked him, "Who are you?" He's the son of Jesse. If I remember that, he said that, your servant. So as David is faithful to him. David is, will be part of his subject, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thine house. He's honorable, yes, because he slew Goliath, and he still respected King Saul for who he is. But Saul wanted to kill him, so he had to flee. Verse 15: Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of his father. For thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more.
He says, my father.
Oh, and nor to all the house of my father, for thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. And the king said, Thou shalt.
So we should say this when he says, do nothing, all this. When he says thy servant, he kind of throw you off. He's referring to himself.
Yeah.
He says thy servant, in the third person. You read it could be like, okay, he's talking about David, his servant. He's talking about himself. So you'll see that they talk like a king or like someone in authority. They'll say thy servant, referring to themselves.
Yeah.
Being the servant of whoever they're talking to that's in a high position. So like we read, he's pretty much saying he didn't know what the situation was, but he knew him to be, like you said, an honorable man. So he helped him out. He went to God before him. He went to God on his behalf.
Yeah. So I know King Saul is looking at all his men. As if they're conspiring against him. Verse 16, and the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house. So is that spirit and soul. Verse 17, and the king said unto the footmen that stood about him, Turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord. So it's not, it's not gonna kill the priests. The servants of the Most High that doing the service in the temple.
They're gonna kill the priests.
It's tough. It's like, damn, I can't give you orders, but most I told I kill the priest, like it's stuck.
So I mean, the priests that we bring our offerings to the priests and let them do the service, and they keep in upkeep of the temple. So if we kill them, who's gonna do it?
So you're killing the most I representative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna kill the priest. Verse 18. And the king said to Doeg, Turn thou and fall upon the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priest, and slew on that day 85 persons that did wear a linen ephod. So Doeg had no problem, because he's he's blessed with the sword, so he has no problem, killing the priest.
Kill them niggas. They do this anyway.
getting better eyes, man.
So
He ain't better eyes. Just said a word. Okay. No question. Damn.
I ain't got no problem killing niggas.
yeah,
Follow
four
orders.
score.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow orders.
I was following orders. You say, right?
Yeah, that's what the king says. But the priests,
At least with the other men, they're waiting the balance. Like, yeah, King Saul's our king, but you can't kill the priest. Most out there, the most out of the month, you know, the most out of the him. And knowing King Saul too, it's like you said, the tough spot to be in if you're under Saul. You want to honor your king, but that order is just like crazy.
yeah, that's a hard order.
Most High allowed this to happen.
Yeah. So
For his purpose. For his
you remember, even the priest is on there. The priest can go to, you know, like the holies of holies and touch the, you know, and do the service of the service that the ordinary person cannot do that. Yeah, that he goes like once a year and they keep the showbread and all of that, and you know, kill the priests. So verse 19. So Esau have no problem with that, especially, you know, during the siege of 76 AD. You know, when they surrounded the temple, surrounded Jerusalem. No. Oh, Doeg is Esau. It's an Edomite right there. That's a white man right there. So-called white man.
We had heathen working for us too. Just like the heathen, they're in power, they had other nations work for them sometimes in certain positions. We had it too. We had our own government.
Yeah. Verse 19, and Nob, the city of the priests, smote he with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and suckling, and oxen and asses and sheep, and with the edge of the sword. So, wow. With the priests, he did a slaughter here. Yeah, with the city of the priests. I was like, wow. They kill everything that breathes right there. Verse 20. Well, you had a question?
Now we're going to tell Monetize at the first 9.
Yeah,
They said go ahead with the Edomite.
It says 9, also in verse 18.
Yeah. Verse 20. So there's that great slaughter in Nob. Verse 20. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And he's going to tell David this. It's like, wow. So he escaped with his life. Verse 21, and Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priests. Priests, yeah. So there's a lot of priests. Verse 22, and David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. So since Doeg the Edomite was there, it was a sad day.
talking to Ahimelech, Doeg was there. He wasn't given that order yet. Not until Saul came later. They say Saul. They took note of each other. But one of those things was like, they didn't know himself as seen here. And when Saul showed his anger towards him, that's when he took opportunity. He was like, oh, I saw, right?
Yeah. Wow. Verse 23, abide thou with me, fear not. So, since David, he has his men with him, he told him to stay with him and don't be fearful, for he that seeketh my life, seeketh thy life. So King Saul and his men to seek David's life are going to seek, seek it your life also. But with me, thou shalt be in safeguard. So you can be, safe here because I'm here with my 400 men, with my soldiers here. That was a sad day for the priest. And
first he killed the 85 men, and then he went on to kill the city.
yeah, slaughtered cattle, women, children, suckling, oxen, asses, and sheep.
Did he kill that?
Priests died. Somebody gets up. We started by the other.
That's from Saul.
Yeah, he's the king. So
He killed every.
I mean, it's only Esau doing it, but Saul was the one that he signed off.
Yeah.
Saul's the one that commanded it to be done.
Kind of like with Christ, right? The Pharisees that sold him out. The Romans actually did the work. So when the Romans were empowered in the country, right?
Yeah. The question I'm asking is why did the Most High happen? I know this is real, but I'm trying to see what's the inside. What was the reason they allow all the priests to die? Sack the village and everything like that. When the priest sinning, that was
Yeah.
like judgment. They did something they weren't supposed to do.
It went down like that. So I don't know. Doeg,
And then
more
about
blood on
people-
Doeg's hand,
a lot
and
more
plus-
people died, bro, 'cause,
Well, I think what the brothers asking, we don't necessarily say that part.
what?
So we just have to wonder.
What's that?
There's like a judgment behind.
Oh, the priest getting killed.
Right. Something behind this. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Sometimes everything, I notice everything in the scriptures is connected. We might not see sometimes something that happened way earlier, and the Most High executing judgment. But you saw to make that decision because Saul is innocent.
Yeah.
It's like kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, Psalms 78, 64. 78. Psalms.
Let's make the new change real quick. And you put that up.
Yeah, what's it? Psalm 78,
I was going to say this real quick.
64.
You can die in righteousness. And it'll be more. I think I did it Maccabees, right? You had those that didn't want to fight on the Sabbath, who the Greeks kept trying to kill us on the Sabbath, but they didn't do the rest of it. You had those that said, we're going to die on the Sabbath, not standing ourselves. And they took counsel after that saying, they're going to keep using this tactic, let's fight them on the Sabbath, right? So those that died on the Sabbath at the hand of the Greeks, they did well. But those that decide to counsel, fight against them on the Sabbath, to do well on the Sabbath, to defend themselves, they did even better. At least they preserved their life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those, what's the best option? As opposed to, they were wrong for not fighting the Sabbath.
Yeah, but
That's the choice that they made. So it can happen that way too. Or it can happen, like you said, something that done before. It's not here. But the Allah anyway.
all right, so we're now on 1 Samuel chapter 23.
Yeah, that's
Hmm?
you quote me something song?
No, I was looking at Psalms. Yeah, I was looking at Psalm 78:64. It was related to it. I was trying to look up something like that, but here they're widows, but even the women died too. So it was a great slaughter that day of the priests in that land, where they live. Yeah, now I was kind of looking at it, Psalm 78:64, but it may not be related to it. But, okay, now in 1 Samuel chapter 23. 1 Samuel 23, verse 1. Then they told David, saying, behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floor. So the threshing floor with like with grain. So for the supplies, I would think here. Like So the Philistines coming up against us again. And they control the threshing floor. So verse 2, therefore, yeah, the harvest, yeah. But they, like what I have in Ukraine, but they said like a lot of wheat come from there for the threshing floor where they process food there. Verse 2, therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, go and smite the Philistines and save Keilah. So the Philistine, one of our staunch enemies of Israel. So the Philistines again, because remember Goliath, that David killed Goliath, and now the Philistines are coming back again and causing havoc. So the Most High told him to go and smite the Philistine and save that city.
I'm just saying, when you get confirmation from the Most High like that, go on, fight.
Yeah, it should go, right?
The inspiration is behind that, the confidence behind that is a whole different level. I mean, he said, yeah, go get him. You know, that spirit that come on you, that power that come on you, the Most High, yeah, go get him. It's like, you hype at that point.
Yeah, definitely,
You know, so I got my back.
Yeah.
You don't know. Kind of taking a gamble.
Yeah, you're like, It's a reassurance that, I got you. Good. Well,
It'd be sweet if you do that now, like,
yeah, what's that? Yeah.
And I know at times I'm thinking about even when Israel was fighting against Benjamin, the Most I say go up, and Benjamin was winning at one point, and then eventually They got conquered, you know. So verse 3. And David men said unto him, Behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more than if we come to Keilah again against the armies of the Philistine? So they kind of having, you know, a little doubt here, because, you know, first Saul is trying to kill David, and he's seen as if his men are against him. So they're having a little doubt here. How we gonna go there and, you know, fight against the Philistines? Verse 4, because you know David had the confirmation from the Most High already. So verse 4, then David inquired of the Lord yet again, and the Lord answered him and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thine hand. So that's double confirmation right there. So David, verse 5, so David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. So confirmation from the Most High, and he was able to conquer and save the inhabitants, save the people of Keilah. Verse 6, and it came to pass when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. So, all the priests were died and so on. And he came with that ephod. That's the breastplate of the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 7, and it was told Saul that David was come to Keilah. So when they told Saul that David, they heard that he went there and he fought the Philistines. So they heard that he was there, and Saul said, God had delivered him into mine hand. So Saul is thinking that again, that since he know he's there, for he is shut in by entering into a town that had gates and bars. So King Saul is thinking that, oh, I can get David now because he's shut in. Verse 8, and Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. Verse 9, so it's going to be like a war here that's going on, try to figure that he could get David. Verse 9, and David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And he said to Abiathar the priest, bring hither the ephod. So David, know that the Most High is with him. Verse 10, then David said, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant had certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Verse 11, will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? So will the city that in Keilah gonna give up David to Saul? So will Saul come down as thy servant had heard? O Lord God of Israel, because he's praying now here, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. Verse 12. Then said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up. So the Most High said that they're going to deliver him to Saul here. Verse 13. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah and went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbade to go forth. So he figured that he was able to, catch him there in Keilah because he's closed in, but he's closed in. So David escaped. So he can't figure that he's gonna get him in there, but David escaped. So the people were gonna deliver David to King Saul. So he had to escape. Verse 14. And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand. So it was Saul looking for him every day wherever he is, but the Most High, didn't allow it to go down. Verse 15. And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. Yeah, because he's fleeing for his life, and he has his men there, but he has to, because Saul has his men too. Verse 16. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood. So in the wood, you kind of, hide within a certain area that you don't not be seen so easily, and straighten his hand in God. So David is not gonna go and confront Saul and his men just like that. He rather not do that. He rather flee. Verse 17. And he said unto him, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth.
So Saul's son was against him.
Yeah, Jonathan, like David.
He was against his dad. He didn't like the way his dad was doing.
Yeah, because his dad was wanting to kill,
Wicked.
kill David.
Right. Even if he booed somebody, but it's still your father. But I guess because he didn't like the way his father was running the kingdom, his father had some wickedness, and he realized that David was much more righteous than his own father.
Yeah.
Maybe he looked at David as his own father because how righteous David was. And his dad became wicked, so pretty much went against his dad.
And I can imagine Jonathan knew that he sent Doeg to kill all the priests.
Right.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So he was paying honor more to David than he was to his own father.
Yeah, he still
more honor towards the Most High's righteousness than his own father. I guess it's the same way you can look at it in the world. Like if your earthly father is doing wickedness, You should follow him. You should follow the Most High, even though he's your earthly father.
Yeah, he still respected his
Respect
father.
him, but you're not going to follow his ways.
Yeah.
Oh, just for that, to read this real quick. Go back to 1 Samuel 20. Read 32, 34 real quick. First we answer that. Is that 21? 1 Samuel 20, 32 to 34.
First Samuel 20, verse 32. And Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, wherefore shall he be slain? Why has he done it? And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat nor meat the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David because his father had done him shame.
See, what was that again? What you just read?
1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 32 down to 34.
1 Samuel 20,
Right.
32 to 34. Yeah. Verse 18. And they two made a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood. And Jonathan went to his house. So they made an agreement. Jonathan and David. Verse 19. Then came up the Zippites to Saul to Gibesh, saying, does not David hide himself with us in the strongholds, in the wood, in the hills of Hakliah, what's it? Hakhilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? So they come to rat out David, that he's in the woods over here. It's verse 20. Now, therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. So we're going to, come down, and we're going to deliver David into your hand. So Saul is going to be happy here. Verse 21. And Saul said, blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me. So, the blessing of the Lord is like, wow, you're going to deliver David into my hand, and I'm glad that you told me this. So this is good news for me. Yeah, so it's like he still have this thing for David that he wants to kill him.
Right.
Yeah, because he has that spirit on him. Yeah. Verse 22. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see his place where his haunt is, and who had seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly. Subtly. So he's like, okay, you're going to tell me where he is, and I'm gonna go there and you're gonna, give him up because he's kind of hiding from me and he's kind of fleeing from me, but I know where he is right now. I'm happy where he is right now, so they're gonna give him up and I'm gonna able to go there and kill him and stuff. Verse 23. So therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself. So find out where he is, all his hidden spots and not known to a lot of people. Find out everything. And come yet again to me with the certainty, and I will go with you, and it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. So wherever it is, I'm going to look him out and I'm going to find him. Verse 24, and they arose and went to Zip before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Mahon, in the plain of the south of Jeshimon. So David was in this area in the wilderness here. Verse 25, Saul also and his men went to seek him to kill him, of course. And they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Mahon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Mahon. So he's apparently it's a big wilderness. So he keep on going after David. Verse 26, and Saul went on this side of the mountain, and David and his men went on that side of the mountain. So, and David made haste to get away for fear of Saul. So he's fearing of Saul. He's not going to confront Saul, but he's fearing him. He don't want to go there and battle with Saul and, Israel versus Israel, house of David versus the house of Saul. For Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. So figure that they're going to cover all the grounds, and surround them. Verse 27, but there came a messenger unto Saul, saying, haste thee and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land. So instead of, focusing on David now, the Philistines are in the land too. So that's a problem there. Is, enemy, one of the staunch enemy of Israel. They're in the land too. So verse 28, wherefore Saul returned from pursuing after David, because he has problem with the Philistines, because that's a problem that he has to go and deal with. And went against the Philistines. Therefore they called that place Sila Melekot. Yeah. So the Philistines, they were like, coming against, Israel, and they're there, and he has a problem on his hands to deal with. So he had to go deal with that. That's it.
It shows you how you could say, man's going of the Lord, or man's heart devises the way the Lord directed his steps. So when you're following the Most High, as you see Saul trying to get him without a righteous cause, he's like, oh, he's here. You get there. Oh, he's over here. Oh, he's over there in the wilderness. Let's go over there. They go over there. Oh, the Philistines, they took over the city. Oh, we gotta go. It's like the Most High just like as David. Like,
Yeah, because things like they surrounded David, remember? And they surrounded them too. So it's like,
so it
oh, I
almost has
can.
like a way to like deliver you, to save you each time. Like chess pieces, right? Moving around. Oh, Philistines. So it's gonna do.
Yeah,
It's
this,
more like a personal vendetta more than anything else. So while he's trying to accomplish his personal issue with David, meanwhile, the land's getting jacked up.
You know what I'm thinking about too? Right now, outside of the
Second
Philippines,
crop.
he probably got matters too. I know he's got judges and stuff. He probably has matters that probably are raising up that might he need to be. He might have to resolve. His attention's all on David, on after a righteous man. So people are like, what you doing? We got issues back home, and you know.
Like it's a personal vendetta. Like cloud his judgment. So now he can't really focus on the situation at home. So he's going after trying to solve his personal issue with David.
Yeah, Manasseh. Read Second Chronicles 18:31.
And what?
18:31.
Second Chronicle, chapter 18 and verse 31. And it came to pass when the captains of the chariots saw
Jehoshaphat.
Jehoshaphat, that they said, "It is the king of Israel." Therefore they compassed about him to fight. But Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him, and God moved them to depart from him. For it came to pass that when the captain of the chariot perceived that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back again from pursuing him.
Yeah. That's all right. He cried out to the Most High, you know. And they were right there. They were like, oh, no, it's not the king. He's like, turn him away.
We have to read the rest too. Second part of that. Other verses too, as far as what actually happened to the king of Israel. It's to show that, when you lost the Most High's favor, no way you can hide. Have them read the last couple verses too.
33, 34. 33. And a certain man drew a bow at adventure and smote the king of Israel between the joint of the harness. Therefore he said to his chariot men, "Send thy hand that thou mayest carry me out of the host, for I am wounded." And the battle increased that day. Howbeit the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Syrians until the evening. And about the time of the sun going down, he died.
Yeah, smoke the king.
He got caught by an arrow. You know what I mean? Like, he's supposed to be like disguised, right? Josephat was in the forefront, but Josephat was, doing what he was supposed to do. He had, like you said, he had that protection.
Yeah.
Even in a situation like that, he's still surrounded. The king of Israel, he couldn't find him. He said, "Let me hide myself in the army, right? So they can't see me."
Yeah.
Most I still had that arrow, find him.
Shot that bow. Got him, man.
He said that he was giving the Most High's bad side. Don't matter. Hide. You can't run. You can't hide. When that judgment is on you, it's gonna find you.
That's one of the deadliest weapon in war. Back in the days, the arrow.
Like a sniper today.
Yeah. Get that arrow, and they have a good marksman.
They give you from a mile away.
Arrow?
Well, arrow, yeah, maybe a block away. I'm talking about a sniper today. They can hit you from a mile away.
Yeah, they got that.
Especially the crossbow and all that stuff they have to pull, and it's like get him get the king. So yeah, verse 29. And David went up from hence and dwelt in strongholds at En Gedi. So he was, Saul was right there. Then the Philistines came, and then he has to go and deal with the Philistines because that's a bigger, that's like an army of Philistines right there instead of David and his men right there. He has to go and deal with that. But eventually, how Saul died, everything was, was really sad. Because even today, sometimes they have to go, they're going on certain things or whatever, and then something else came up in their life, they're gone. There's something bigger to deal with, So that's to the end of Second Samuel 23. And the next Sabbath reading is Galatians 6. Galatians 6 and 7. 6, 7, 5, 6. Galatians 5 and 6.
We read 3 and 4 last time.
Okay, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And Galatians 5 and 6, next Sabbath reading. So, prepare for the closing prayers. Barakata Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Asherah, Nathananawa, Parya, Hagapan, Tuwada, Aman, La, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashai, At Yasharala. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that give to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it, to Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. Amadwa, Panya, Jerusalem. Stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Babakashah, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yamyan, Aitha, Shalak, Ma'aka'ala, Walayim, Tazwadakim, Ayel, Shemor Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wakazayak, Banya, Yasha'ala, Wasalat, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalamwat, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Agana, Rakanaya, Wasalat, Kal, Katayim Nawa, Larakium, Washa'ala, Tumyad, Waiwalam, Basham, Yahawashai, the water, Amen. Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai, please listen to us right now. Send Michael and the righteous power angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel, and send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you, so be it. The Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Baratnawa, Washa'ala, Wabati Saporim, Shama, Yasharala, Yahweh, Alahainawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shalom, Israel. Enjoy the rest of the Sabbath.